I think we're going to try to get started. Thank you all for coming today. Welcome to the Loft Literary Center in Open Book. My name is Bao Phi, Program Director of the Loft Literary Center. And this is actually my first ever PowerPoint type of presentation. So you're in for a treat. We ask that you hold your questions until the very end. The presentation shouldn't be too long at all, about 15-20 minutes, and then I will ask questions, or you will ask questions, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. And I will repeat your questions so that people who have missed it will be able to hear what you asked. You don't have to take extensive notes. Almost everything that I cover will be available online. The guidelines should be up hopefully in the next 2 weeks. We apologize. We're transitioning to a completely new online infrastructure. You can imagine the havoc that creates to a bunch of poets and writers. We are working it out. We'll get that up soon, okay? Sound good? So you're all here to figure out how to get this money. That's right. This is called the Emerging Writers Grant. We're going to just jump right into it. There are some critical differences this year for those of you who are familiar with this grant, and I'll try to point them out as we proceed. All right? So the Emerging Writers Grant, what is it? It is for Minnesota writers who show significant potential, have a professional practice, have some level of professional achievement, yet are under-recognized. This is not a beginning writer's grant. So you may be saying, wait, what? What does that mean? Well, people who are eligible. You must live in Minnesota at the time of the application and have been residents of the state for at least 1 year prior to the application deadline. No more than 2 books, self-published books, and educational textbooks do not count against eligibility. And you can't have any more than 2 professionally produced CDs. You also cannot have received awards such as the American Book Award, the National Book Award, the Pulitzer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Marlon James, if you're in here somewhere, you can. And actually it deleted one of my slides. I have to backtrack to tell you exactly what this grant is. We already said this is my first one, right? Yeah, it looks like it deleted one. Okay, so this is what the grant is, and this is actually an important difference from the grant moving forward. The Minnesota Emerging Writers Grant provides financial support and professional assistance to support the artistic or career advancement of writers who show significant potential, have a professional practice, have some level of professional achievement, yet are under-recognized. This is, again, not a beginner's grant. Up to 5 winners will be selected to receive grants of $8,000. The Minnesota Emerging Writers Grant will be awarded pending confirmation of funding. Okay, so there's a couple of important things that I want to go over there. So before this writing grant, we had $38,000 total, and writers could apply for up to $10,000. A significant change this year is there will be just 4 awards of $8,000. And the reason that we're doing that is because a learning process we found is that most writers who apply for this apply for the same thing. You need time off for work. You need to pay for childcare. You want to hire a manuscript consultant. You need to travel to Pittsburgh to research steel mills. Basically, we found that most writers applied for the same thing, and we just kind of want to trust writers to spend the money wisely in the ways that they think will advance their art. That makes it much easier on you. It makes it easier on the judges who don't have to go through your budget and make sure you're not taking a vacation to Disneyland with this money. So that is an important distinction. And we'll get more into the nuts and bolts of the grant, but that is a difference. So instead of this year having to write out a grant and plan out exactly how you're going to spend every dollar of, say, $5,000, you're just going to write a convincing narrative about how awesome you are and how you're going to spend the money wisely, okay? What does awarded pending confirmation of funding mean? Well, anyone who works at nonprofits probably knows what that means. It means that we don't have the money yet. That being said, this is money that has been awarded to us to administer for many years. And we have no reason to believe that we won't be awarded the money again. There is, but anything can happen. So there's maybe like a, 5% chance that we won't get it, but we just want to be transparent with people that anything can happen, but we are very confident that we're going to move forward with this, okay? All right, so where are we? So we went through the eligibility, you can't win Pulitzers, et cetera, more eligibility. If you've already won this grant in 2014 or 2015, you can't apply again yet. Wait one more year. Let's see. And if you have won this award, you have to have filled out all of your paperwork to Jerome and the Loft Literary Center and not have been a naughty writer who has not filled in your stuff, all right? Categories that are eligible: poetry, prose, creative nonfiction, young adult, children's lit. Not eligible: monologues, scripts, screenplays, journalism, academic, education, business, self-help, or mean-spirited exposés about Loft's name. That is never accepted. Neither Jerome or Loft staff or board are eligible to apply, which makes some of us sad. But Loft contract artists, such as our wonderful teaching artists, are eligible to apply. Yay! Generally speaking, students in K through 12 educational programs are not eligible to apply. Also, if you're enrolled in a degree granting program, generally speaking, you're not eligible to apply. However, if you are in a degree granting program, but you can demonstrate that you have a writing life outside of academia and your program, then you are eligible to apply. Does that make sense? So you have to be able to demonstrate that you have a writing life outside of your degree granting program. Collaborative teams can apply together, but collaborative teams can only apply for one award grant of $8,000. So for example, you can apply as a team for $16,000. You will only get 8 if you win. What can I apply for? The grant program is intended to assist emerging writers with support that helps them create or present their work. Now, work samples will be evaluated on artistic potential and quality. Narratives should demonstrate the writer's commitment to craft, illuminate any barriers to creating and presenting work that these funds would help overcome, and describe the writer's goals for the grant year. So what does that mean exactly? So work sample, put your best work forward, okay? Put yourself in the judge's shoes. They're going to be looking through 300 of these, okay? Put your best work forward, because your number one goal in applying for this grant is to make it to the semifinalist stage when they're looking through all of those. So put your best work forward. In terms of narratives, this is where you tell the judges who you are. Now these judges, because this is open to Minnesota writers, we always partner with a national literary arts nonprofit to find the judges for us, and we work with them. This year it's VONA, Voices of Our Nation, a really wonderful writing program. These folks, these 5 judges, will be looking through 300 of these applications. Your narrative is going to be where you tell them a little bit about who you are as a writer and why you should get this money. Okay, so barriers include you're working too much, you have a sick person in your family you need to take care of, you just haven't had time to go to, or money to go to Breadloaf or VONA, or or your bill or your rent has been kicked up. These are all barriers to participation. And this is where you kind of write about what that is. The barrier to participation might be you just need time off to write. That's perfectly acceptable too. And we'll get into more of that in a second. What can objectives be? Possible objectives include but are not limited to completion or revision of a manuscript, CD, or body of work, improve speaking, performance, or presentation skills, securing an agent, or completion of research for a manuscript, or just time to complete a manuscript, okay? Now I know there's been a lot of words and I've been talking a lot, so here's a picture of a cat with much money. Is everybody ready to move on? Okay, right, all right. Activities or expenses might include, but again, are not limited to, taking time off of work in order to focus on writing, obtaining critical evaluation of manuscripts, attending a writer's conference, meeting with editors, publishers, or agents, travel for research or other research-related expenses, marketing for a first or soon-to-be published work or performance, consulting with mentors or colleagues on matters of artistic development, and proposals may request funding for taking classes or conferences at the Loft or VONA, or renting a Loft writer studio, or working with a Loft or Guild online mentor, or actually Vona online mentor, okay? Activities not supported are starting a business. So sure, that smoothie stand is gonna be awesome, but we can't fund it. Paying off student loans, you can't apply for that. You also cannot apply to retroactively pay off incurred costs you've already had as a writer. So let's say that you've sunk $3,000 into an awesome online website and you've already put $3,000 into it. Good for you, you can't apply for that to get paid back for that, sorry. The due date is May 6th, 11:59 p.m., 2016. I strongly recommend that you don't wait until 11:58 to apply, because bad things happen, especially online, cute puppies or otherwise. What you'll need: all submissions will be received online via Fluid Review. You're going to need a Fluid Review account to submit to this. Now they are free, but we again recommend that you familiarize yourself with Fluid Review before you apply. Again, guidelines and Fluid Review primer should be up on our website, www.loft.org, pretty soon. Okay, parts of the actual application. When you get into Fluid Review and apply for this, you're gonna have a simple form to fill out. And what it's gonna ask you some pretty simple demographic information: name, email, address, phone number. It will ask you for a 1-paragraph biography that should be written in the third person. And the reason we ask for that is that if you win, then we can just copy that directly from our records into the press release and tell everybody how awesome you are, okay? So think about that when you're writing that bio. This is gonna sound silly, but use an actual email address that you check when you apply for this, okay? Because that is the primary way we will be communicating with you. I know some people use email addresses that they don't check because they're like, oh, I'm gonna get spam. If we can't communicate with you, you don't get money, okay? So use an email address that you actually use. The narrative, and this is again a little bit different from years past. Narrative proposal no more than 5 pages in length, single space, 12-point font. And again, all of this will be online, but the questions that we're gonna ask is, what is your objective over the year? What do you want to accomplish? What will have changed in your artistic life or career if you succeed? What activities do you propose in order to meet the objective? What barriers keep you from those activities or stand in the way of meeting your objective now? And how will this grant help you overcome those barriers? So again, all of this will be online, but basically hey, who are you as a writer? What are your hopes and dreams with this money? How's it gonna help you? What's keeping you from your hopes and dreams? How's this money gonna help you, okay? And remember, again, the judges don't know you. And so as clear and concise as you can be, this will help you. And again, one thing that's nice about the new changes is that you don't have to account for every single budget line item of what you're gonna spend the money on, but you do need to convince the judges of what you're gonna do in the narrative. Does that make sense? So instead of math, words. You all like that, right? Math makes writers cry. All right. Another part of the application, a resume or a CV, okay? Now include a one-page copy of a CV or resume. This should detail your writing life, okay? You're not applying for a job at the Loft, all right? We just want to hear about your life as a writer. So that could include classes that you've taught, writing conferences you've been to, performances or readings that you've given, online journals or websites where your work is published, et cetera, et cetera. Tell us about your life as a writer, okay? And then the work sample. Prose writers, 20 to 30 double-spaced pages. Poetry, 15 to 20 single-page pages of poetry. And again, all of this will be online. Okay? If you want to submit both prose and poetry, submit half maximum page amount. Spoken word artists, you can also upload audio and video, but you also have to submit written text, like a transcription of your work if you do that. Writers of picture books can submit up to 25 pages of text and art. You will be judged, obviously, on the text. Hey, what's up? Good song. Writers of picture books can submit up to 25 pages of text and art, but this is a writing grant, so you will be judged on the text, not the art, all right? And you may submit a synopsis as part of the page count. Again, all of this will be online. Parts of the application which are optional, you can include no more than 5 pages of optional supporting materials. Supporting materials can be anything that relates to your project, such as a letter of intent from a writing organization or from an awesome writer who has agreed to work with you and your manuscript. Like, you know, Sherman Alexie thinks you're gorgeous and awesome, and he totally wants to work with you. This is where you get the letter from him. And I'm being a little bit facetious, but the serious part of that is, again, the judges don't know you. So let's say they say in your proposal, you say, you know, I have this awesome manuscript and I want Toni Morrison to work with me. They're gonna look at that and be like, yeah, right. But if you actually have talked to Toni Morrison or Toni Morrison's agent and have an agreement with her, this is where you're gonna get that letter from her agent or Toni Morrison herself saying, I'm gonna work with this person. Does that make sense? And also, let's say that you really do need to go to the Bahamas and do writing research, and you don't want it to look like a vacation. Let's say you find a writing organization or a nonprofit in the Bahamas and have talked to them about your research and what you're going to do while you're there. You can get a letter of intent from that, whatever space that is, and this would be the place for it. Okay? Caution, we cannot help you edit or append your submission once you've submitted it, okay? So it's good to be early, but make sure that you're ready to submit. If you want to update it prior to the deadline, you can withdraw your application and resubmit it, okay? So the lesson there is just keep all your stuff, whatever happens. Failure to submit your work according to these guidelines will disqualify your proposal. It is the worst part of my job to disqualify people, so please don't make me do that. Really, it sucks. Consultations. You have to schedule these consultations in advance, but due to the nature of this grant, one-on-one consultations with the program director, that is me, are available in 3 ways: in person, by phone, or by email. Generally, meetings can be scheduled Tuesdays through Fridays, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., but you can't just show up, and you can't just call me and say, I want to meet with you tomorrow. Give me a little bit of heads up, especially since I'm on call for jury duty during March and April. I know, right? I mean, this is so weird. So I can't guarantee that I'll be here all the time during those times, but those are generally the times I can meet and talk. So just try to give me like a week or two's notice before you want to meet. And I will do my best to answer your questions. What I'm willing to look at is your narrative proposal and your CV, and to advise you, I don't look at work samples. Okay, I'm not a judge, so my opinion on your work sample doesn't matter. It's a waste of your time and a waste of mine. So I won't look at your work sample, but I could generally advise you on other aspects of your application. Okay? Be prepared. The one caveat I will add to the whole helping you is I will not help you the week of the deadline. Okay? So May 1st through May 6th. May 6th is the deadline. I will not offer consultations and help, okay? Way too stressful for everybody. Questions? Yes?
Well, it doesn't sound like the definition of an emerging writer is very different from previous years, am I right?
Right, yeah. So the question is, has the definition of emerging writers changed? It has not. We're just trying to clarify it a little bit. I think when someone hears the word emerging writer, a lot of different things go through a lot of people's heads. But basically, what an emerging writer is someone who has demonstrated both the ability and the conviction to have a writing life, but isn't on the level where you won a Nobel Prize, and have wide recognition for your work.
I can easily walk outside my house and not be recognized.
Awesome. I have a question back here. Yes.
Yeah, when you gave that description just now, the emerging writer, it's unclear to me as to whether or not that person has to have published a book.
So the question was, for the purposes of this grant, does a writer need to have published a book? No, you do not. You do not. Yes, question.
When I was looking at sample applications, it seemed that there was some kind of public service component, like you had to do like a reading or run like a workshop. Is that no longer the case?
The question is some type of public service required as a part of this grant? No, it is not. It is not. We sometimes, for fun, put on emerging writers showcases where winners of the grant read. Those are optional. But no, there's no requirement for this grant that says that you have to teach a workshop or must do a performance. There is not. Yes, in the front.
Regarding work samples, is it preferable to submit a sample that reflects the work you're pursuing, or something that's been published before?
So the question is, very good question, and it's very tricky. Should you submit something that's been published or something that's indicative of where your work is going? The way to answer that question is, sometimes with judges, when they see applications like that, what becomes frustrating to them is if they're looking at the work sample and your resume and your narrative, and they see a lot of potential, but based on the work sample, they don't know if you can get there. Does that make sense? And so it's kind of a fine line. Again, my advice usually is to try to be strategic, put your really strong work in front, and then your more experimental work in the end of your work sample, and in the synopsis, kind of explain that. Does that make sense?
So it sounds like you're suggesting 2 samples, but I don't think you are you?
I mean, it depends. It depends on, I think you want to be strategic. So I think it's possible to do 2 work samples if you think that would be a stronger application for you. Because the other side of that is let's say you submit something really strong, but then your narrative proposal says, I'm going to do this completely other thing. That also doesn't tell the judges anything about whether or not you can accomplish your goal. Does that make sense? So I guess I'm saying it's a very difficult question, and I would say that just be strategic. So again, always go back to the judges don't know you. All they've got to go on is your work sample, your CV, and this narrative. So if you're going somewhere with it, try to explain it as best you can and show as much of your potential as you can. Does that make sense? Be strategic. Yes, in the back.
I graduated from a program in early August. Is that, there's a little bit of overlap there? Is that going to be a barrier?
So the question is, if you graduated from a degree granting program in August, is that a problem? Again, no, as long as you can demonstrate that you have a writing life outside of academia, that's not a problem. No. Alana, did you have?
I did. So my question was the timeline during which the grant funds could be used.
Yes, great question. I'm sorry, I totally missed that. So the funding for the actual life of the grant cycle would be from September 1st, 2016 to August of 2017. So roughly a year. And generally speaking, if you get it, I pretty much leave you alone, but I do ask for a half year and end of the year check-in in terms of writing a report.
So what is, like, you're kind of touching on accountability, will the people who win the grant, what happens next?
What happens next is we cut you a check, and in 6 months, I ask how are things you need to write, how things are going. And at the end of the year, you need to write a full report, like a one-page report on whether or not you accomplished your goals or not. So generally speaking, again, this is a writer's grant. We recognize, we obviously want you to stick to your plan, but we recognize that as writers, life happens, and sometimes you can't accomplish everything you do. So I wouldn't say that people are invested in going after you, but you really should try to do what you say you're going to do. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes?
Do you need to, during the period that the grant proposal kind of applies to, do you still need to be a resident of Minnesota?
Yes, so the question is, while you have received this grant, do you have to be a resident of Minnesota? Yes, you do.
So during that period, because I know you have to be to apply, but you also during that period still need to be a resident?
I'm pretty sure you do.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure you do. I mean, you can leave, obviously, because part of this is you can apply to visit places, and I know one of our last grantors received an award to spend a significant amount of time somewhere else to do research, but I believe you can't straight up move, I don't think. Yes?
So in the past, we could submit things online. Is this gonna be a paper process now, this year?
No, it's, so the question is, if it's gonna be a paper process this year. No, it'd still be online. We're using a new system called Fluid Review.
Fluid review.
Yeah.
The 20 to 30 pages double space sort of threw me.
Yeah,
Do you
so-
know how that translates to number of words?
No idea. Anyone? Any? Grant?
Double spaced page is about 250 words, give or take.
About 7 to 10 hours a
And then you used the expression, did you say CV or CD?
CV.
CV.
Yeah.
What does CV stand for?
It's basically another word for resume. Yeah. Curriculum writing, yeah.
And what if you're so emerging that you don't really have a professional writing resume?
This is not a beginner's writing grant, so you probably shouldn't be applying for it. That being said, if you can demonstrate that you have some commitment to the writing life out there and can put it on a resume, you can apply and see what the judges say. So again, we don't require that you have anything published necessarily, but you need to tell basically the judges what your commitment to the writing life has been up to this point.
And then do you have any kind of a scoring grid that would say, we're going to award 10 points, 2 points for the CV, 2 points for the narrative? Do you have anything like that?
So the question is there going to be a scoring grid? There will be a scoring system up to the judges. I'm not going to disclose what it is, but I will say that it's going to be mostly based on your writing sample and your narrative. Okay.
So it's not gonna be March Madness brackets?
What's that?
So it's not gonna be March Madness brackets?
No March Madness brackets. No betting on the emerging writers bracket. Yes, with the back.
Process, will the work also, and the narrative be read at the same time, or is it like work comes first and then they'll look at the narrative after they've made the title or whatever?
Okay, so the question is, are the judges going to read work samples or the narratives first? I'm going to be very transparent with you. I'm guessing most judges, what they do is they read the work sample first. If in the first 5 pages you don't grab their attention, they're not even going to read the narrative. Okay, I'm just being real with you. Does that make sense? So definitely, I'm not saying slack off on your narrative, but make sure that the work sample really catches their eye. So, yes?
CV can only be 1 page long?
Yeah. I suppose you could do 2, just please don't send me a 5-page CV.
Right.
Please don't.
Right.
Yeah. Other questions? Yeah. Hi.
So in an ideal world, let's say a writer is awarded a Jerome Foundation travel and study grant.
Yeah.
Are they still eligible for this?
That is a very good question. They are still eligible for this as long as the money going doesn't apply to the same thing. Does that make sense? So if you submitted to this and then you submitted to a Jerome Travel and it's the exact same proposal, then no, you can't get it. But if it's for 2 different parts of your writing life, then yes, you can. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
So the question was, if you applied for a Jerome plus this, could you receive both? The answer is yes, conditionally. So if the grants are different, then yes. If they're the same grant, no. Okay. I saw another handout somewhere. Yes?
This is a related question, but would that same thing apply to sort of other grants like a Minnesota State Arts Board grant or something like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know about that because this is a Jerome Loft project. I don't know what the liability or the law is around that. I'm assuming it would be fine. I mean, Other questions? Okay, yeah.
Actually, it's for my friend, he's a prose writer.
Sure.
So for the prose, if it was a fiction application, do you recommend like a part of a novel, or could it be like 2 or 3 short stories, or a short story and part of a novel?
So for prose writers, can it be an excerpt from a novel? Should it be several short stories, excerpts, etc.? Again, best work forward. It doesn't matter, just the best work forward. Other questions? If while I'm waiting and you are thinking of more questions, my advice to all writers applying for grants is that if you're ever asked to be on the other side of this, to sit on a panel and be a judge, I absolutely recommend that you do that. even if the pay sucks and it seems like a lot of work, once you go through the judge and jury panel process, you gain invaluable experience for when you apply for one of these grants. I found that to be true for myself, is when after I sat on several judge and jury panels, I was able to learn so much and apply that to my grant writing process. So, I saw hands back here.
Yeah, sorry, is there a fee to apply?
No, is there a fee to apply? There is no fee. This is a totally free application, which is awesome. Question back in the back.
In terms of meeting with you to consult about it,
Yeah.
do you want us to submit something to you by email before we talk, or is it something that we could just have a conversation?
Either or. So the question is for private consultations with the Loft's handsome, talented program director. If you should email stuff to me before, if it can just be a conversation, it actually can be either or. So the consultations can be just general conversations. It could be more me looking over your stuff beforehand and giving you advice. It could be either of those things. I do ask that if it is you giving me something to read, that you give me some advance time to do that. So, yes.
Would the judges be listed on the website before the actual deadline for application?
Like who the judges are? No, the judges' identities won't be disclosed until the end. I can tell you again that they will be from ONA, which are our partners, but I can't tell you who they will be. What I can tell you about the judges is that we ask for diversity in race, gender, sexuality, also in aesthetics. So we ask that most of the judges be proficient in more than one genre. And there will be 5 of them, and they will all be required to read your applications, every single one. But in the press release, that is when we will let you know who the judges are. But they will come from ONA. I saw a hand, maybe here and then there. Yeah.
So there's no preliminary judging by someone besides the main judges?
So the question is there a preliminary judging before the VONA judges? No, there is not. There is a vetting stage where, and basically that's where I and other law staff go through and make sure that you're eligible and that your application is complete. So there's a vetting stage, but there's no pre-judging phase. Yes?
I may have missed this. When is the grant awarded?
Oh, good question. The grant is awarded, we're aiming for August and September 2016, which is when your project can begin. Yes, in the back.
I just wanted to make a brief pitch for the class I'm teaching as well on April 9th, which is called Overcoming Application Anxiety. Which is about how to apply for grants, scholarships, and resolutions.
So this was not a question, but a shameless for a Loft workshop that you should definitely look into called Overcoming Application Anxiety, right? And what's the date?
April 9th.
April 9th, 2016. Totally check that out. Thank you for that. Yes?
Someone mentioned sample completed applications from previous years or that were available to look at. Is that?
Yeah, so online there are sample, so the question was, are there sample winning applications online? There currently are. There are 3 examples of winning applications from previous years online with personal information redacted. Take it with a grain of salt because again, the grant has changed a little bit, so you'll see budgets and stuff which you won't need this year, but it is a good place to see some good narratives and some compelling ideas. Does that make sense? Yeah. Any other hands that I missed? Yes.
So right now, I don't know if you can pull it up, but you've got all the grant specifications listed on the website?
They will be. We're working on that. We're hopefully by next week or the week after. For the guidelines, we're hoping next week or the week after, the guidelines will be online.
But you can see the samples from previous years now?
Yes, you can.
Under grants and awards?
Yes, under grants and awards, Emerging Writers Grant, you should be able to see samples from previous years. Yeah. Other questions? Other hands? Yes?
The samples that you see, the samples of individuals who actually received the grants, or individuals that apply?
Do you mean the work samples we were just talking about?
Yeah.
So the work samples are all winning applications, so they've won previously, yes. Other questions? Okay, awesome. Oh, no, yeah, no, awesome. So there's still food and drink and snacks. Please avail yourselves. I don't want to bring any of this home. If any of you want to bring it home, please make yourself a snack. Thank you so much for coming. Have a good night.